Welcome back to the channel. I'm Nicole of Work, Wealth, and Travel. I get a lot of client questions surrounding how somebody could potentially get a second or third citizenship or residency without spending either too much money in terms of an investment or too much time on the ground. If you are really not able to leave your job, to leave the country where you're currently staying, but you are wanting an additional citizenship or residency, today we're going to dive into what some of those potential options could be for you. Now, before we get into it, there are 6 different ways that you can obtain either a new citizenship or a new residence. So what are these 6 options? First, you have citizenship by descent, you have via investment, you have via naturalization, you have by birth, you have by marriage or your partner, or the last category is through exception, which will likely not apply to many people. So I won't be addressing it too much in this video. However, citizenship by exception simply means that the government is granting you a passport for either making a very, very high donation to that country. We could be looking at multiple million to 100 millions of dollars. You could be a famous or well-known figure that has specific ties to that country, such as Angelina Jolie in Cambodia, or you could have also done a really noble act in that country, as we have seen in France, for example, in the news in the past, and various other countries around the globe. If a noble act is done, if a life is saved and you are a foreigner in that country, then potentially you will get citizenship by exception. This is by exception, so we're going to focus on the 5 other ways that you can get citizenship in this video. So right off the bat, what is the fastest option that I can get citizenship without making any sort of significant investment into the country or into a business in that country? Let's say you don't have $250,000, $500,000, which a lot of these programs are now increasing to in order to get residence and or citizenship, as we saw in Portugal's recent changes for the NHR. So you don't have that type of capital. You also are not able to spend too much time on the ground. So what is your option? Now, the fastest and easiest option is not going to look the best for everybody. If you really do want a EU passport or you want to become a part of that country, this may not be the best option for you. But what I always recommend is Caribbean citizenship passports. There are currently 5 different countries in the Caribbean which offer you a passport in exchange for either an investment in that country, buying property in that country, a donation, bonds, various other options. I typically recommend the donation. It is not really throwing your money away because you are getting a passport in exchange for that. And I have a video about these 5 different countries, the requirements, and which could potentially be best for you up here. So click above if you are interested in the Caribbean. But what I always recommend with the Caribbean is that there is not going to be one standout option for most applicants that is going to really look attractive to you. You want to hop on a call with ourselves, with our team in the Caribbean, and you really want to get a feel for which country's lifestyle may be best for you, which country may have the best banking options for you if that is of interest, and they will really figure out based on your lifestyle and what is needed, which of these 5 countries may potentially be best for you. Now, the Caribbean does allow you to obtain a passport in anywhere from 4 to around 16 months as it currently stands, with somewhat of a backlog. There also is a very thorough due diligence process that will have to go on for any of these Caribbean passports. So while it is not a simple, straightforward passport that you can get in 1 or 2 months, it is going to be the easiest with the lowest investment possible, starting at around $150,000 right now for a brand new passport in specific countries through specific investment needs in the Caribbean. If you have a family, if you are looking at one of the pricier passports, it can go up to around $250,000 plus. But if you are just looking at the basics for yourself, it starts at $150,000 for a new passport. Let's move on to the next category. Moving on to our next category is citizenship by descent. If this is something that you can qualify for, I highly recommend starting with this option for your additional passport. While this can take quite a few years, it can also take only 1 to 2 years, depending on the country, depending on how digitalized the system and the documents of that country and the consulate of the current country that you are in now, because you will need documentation from your parents, your grandparents. So this can go back quite some time, and it can be quite intensive in terms of documents needed. However, this is not always the case, so citizenship by descent is a great place to start. Now, most of the citizenship by descent options are available in Europe. And within Europe, it does depend on the lineage and how far back that country will allow you in order to obtain your passport. So some countries will go back 3 generations. If 3 generations ago, your grandparents were able to live there, had the passport, then you may still be eligible. However, some countries it only goes back 1 generation. So this does very much so depend on the country. There are not only options in Europe, there are also options in Central and Latin America, quite a few options for citizenship by descent.